Then Trump ran, and all bets are off. It was outright, he's a racist without any proof. He's all these monsters. Anyone who supports him, you are absolutely insane. And that's when the realities totally shifted.
Right.
Right? It broke the system to where you could not be a good person and a Trump supporter. Are we in a civil war? And if we are, what should you be doing right now? So in case you haven't gotten the word, it's time to heal. After 5 years of being called racist, Nazis, homophobe, xenophobe, every other ist and phobe out there.
White supremacists.
It's time to heal. For 4 years, after 4 years of them denying an election and investigating a president where they found absolutely nothing and declared war on him from go, it's time to heal. After years of cities burning down, looting at will, and violence and beatdowns of Trump supporters in the street, it's time to heal. They said so. And then they came out and started threatening us with lists and saying that if you supported Trump, we're coming after your business. We're coming after you if you supported him on there, and you'll never work again, and blah, 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 and all these things. So is it really time to heal? And I got into it on our boards on YouTube, in the comments over one of our previous videos on this. And I said, there is no way for us to heal on this.
Well, and it's not, it's the whole message of let's unite and move forward and all this stuff, but it's not really, because that implies that there's two sides mutually coming together in an agreement. But no, it's everyone on the right has to now accept and love everything about the left, and that's how we're uniting. Right. It's nothing to do with the left accepting anything about the right.
We cannot accept pro-life and pro-choice or pro-murder are not going to ever coexist. No. They fundamentally disagree. The only way for us to get along would be for the left to start compromising, leading by example. And if they do that long enough and they're truthful, maybe people would come along. Maybe. Mm-hmm. But we've lost all trust in the other party. We've lost all trust in facts, and we cannot coexist together. That's just a fact. There is no more getting along. I'm sorry to say that, but there is no getting along. We're seeing this in families where you can talk about the weather. Yeah. You can talk about food and like dogs or something, and maybe kids. But then if you talk about schools, well, you might talk about school choice and this and that might go off on a whole other
God forbid tangent. You mention a Christian cooperative homeschooling program.
Yeah, homeschooling or anything else. So, unfortunately, people, we are in a civil war right now, whether you want to believe it or not. Now, it was a cold civil war, and the cold civil war has been being fought since probably the 60s in the flower power movement, where they infiltrate, where our schools went from church ladies teaching school to hippie chicks teaching and flower power people teaching schools. And then they infiltrated the universities. They came up and they've been educating socialists since then. All right. We really saw this happen during the Bush administration, right? The George Bush, W. Bush administration, where it was you had a bunch of people who were very pissed off that he won. And then it was all about war and invading Iraq, and Bush lied. And the media was very adversarial and went after George Bush. And they beat the living bejesus out of him, and he never fought back. Mm-hmm. He never fought back. Never fought back. 8 years of it. So then what happens? Well, the Prince of Cool gets elected, Barack Hussein Obama, and the press stopped doing all reporting. Right. And they blame Bush for the first 4 years of his presidency. It was all Bush's fault, everything that went wrong, and none of Obama's fault. And then Obama started weaponizing the government against people with the IRS, investigating conservatives, denying 501c3s, on and on and on and on and on. So for 8 years, they came after conservatives, and then, the Tea Party movement sprang forth and from there. Then Trump ran, and all bets are off. It was outright, he's a racist without any proof. He's all these monsters. Anyone who supports him, you are absolutely insane. And that's when the realities totally shifted.
Right.
It broke the system to where you could not be a good person and a Trump supporter. Right? You could not be a smart person and be a Trump supporter. And on the right, you could not be a smart person and support Hillary.
Right.
Right? Or support a guy who's senile, who can't even put 3 words together, which is Joe Biden, who they're already talking about him not completing 2 years as a president. You voted for that, right? You voted for that because you hated an orange guy. Like, how ridiculous is that? Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? They voted for him just because they hate him, right? I won't get into all his accomplishments and the fact that I think he is going to go down in history once we get enough distance from this as one of the greatest presidents of our time. The fact that he got not 1 vaccine in 8 months, but 3 vaccines in 8 months when they usually take 8 years is amazing, right? The fact that we have this strong economy that weathered this storm is amazing. But the problem is the media has failed us so bad. Traditional media has failed us so bad that there are no more facts. We can't all go to one place and have a referee come here and call it a ball or a strike, or an umpire, a ball or a strike.
Yep.
Got my my sports references mixed up there. But there is no one that's fair that calls ball and strikes. They all have agendas. And because of that, we can't ever agree. We both think we're right and the other side's crazy.
Yeah. It's such an odd place to be. Yeah.
Like, I consider people I know that are we all know the crazies.
Yeah.
Right? There are crazies that we know that all they want is free stuff, and anybody who gets in the way of them wanting free stuff is evil. And they want everyone to pay for all their mistakes that they've ever made. All right? Even some of them are really good. Like they had a kid, and that kid has special needs, and they want the world to take care of that kid instead of them taking care of that kid, right? That's noble. I get it. But that's not the deal.
Yes.
Right? So the crazies, I get it. We're never going to win them. But the fact that there are rational people who vote on personality instead of policy, Christians that could vote against Donald Trump, I don't get it.
Well, and I think that it's not, in their minds, it's not just personality, because they are being fed a different narrative about the policies or about accomplishments or lack of accomplishments. So they think that they are voting against a person who's done things that they don't agree with, not just who's said things that they don't agree with. How can you vote for a
racist because they're being told he's a racist? Like, that's like the number one pushback. Trump's not a racist. He's the furthest thing from a racist. He's done more for the black community than most black people have done for the community. The guy's freaking, he's a solid, good dude. It's just disheartening to see what the propaganda machine, owned by China and by leftist extremist billionaires like Soros and everything else.
If you do exclusively, for 24 hours or for a week or whatever you can tolerate, go and watch that mainstream media kind of news cycle, you can start to understand why that large group of people believes what they do, because that's literally all they're getting. And if you don't go and explore outside of that for other answers, other explanations, they think that they're voting against a very, very bad person.
So that is where, during the Obama years, and Ferguson gave birth to the riots that we hadn't seen since Rodney King, which was in the 80s. You saw the Cold War, Cold War is preparing, escalating in propaganda, just demonizing the other side, dehumanizing the other side. And that's been the Cold War that's been raging since forever. But under the Obama administration, it turned kinetic. It turned physical. And then you really saw it built up there where they went after the police, they demonized the police, they delegitimized the police, so that the police, if they went out and enforced this, they were racist and they were oppressors for stopping looting. Right? If you see 30, people who happen to look one way looting a store, if you arrest them, you're racist.
Yes.
Right? They need to let that rage get out.
They're justified in that
they're justified in that action.
Yeah.
Right? So that happened during the Obama administration. And then during the Trump administration, what we saw from the left, and again, in all Democrat-controlled, Democrat bastions, every place where you look where they've had Democrat control forever, this is what happened. Riots and looting and the attacking of Trump supporters, business owners, or people who don't look like them or don't agree with them. And that's like the old Nazi brown shirts that happened before they were Nazis, or, in the big opening stages of that, where they would go out and beat down other people and demonize them, and et cetera. So that's basically what's happened now. And there's the Civil War question has got two possibilities now. So if Trump wins the court case and stays in office and in power, the media is going to lose their mind. The propaganda wars are going to continue to ramp up, and violence against Trump supporters and supporters of the president in liberal places. They're not even liberals anymore. I'm sorry. I vowed to myself that I would never call them liberals. They're not liberals. They're left-wing extremists. They're the fascists, believe it or not, of the world out there. And they are corporatists, okay? And they will be attacked and penalized and put out of business and driven out of town in all left-leaning places. That's what will happen. Cities will burn, things will go bad, and cancel culture will get really bad. The National Guard will be called. They'll have to put the boot down, and they may get control of this towards the end of the first year, maybe. Right? It's a long time of unrest. Yeah. If Biden wins and it goes into office, we've got a lot of work to do, people. We got a lot of work to do, because now there is no federal attorney general to protect us anymore. There is no federal government to oversee and watch the states. They're going to be in agreement with these leftist states, and no one is going to help you. So if Biden wins, the immediate kind of acute violence is less likely to happen because... they might do celebratory violence because, But that's going to be a smaller scale, more isolated, and that's going to stop. The puppeteers up here are going to tell them, knock it off. But you think, is it going to swell to a potentially bigger level of violence as people on the right side start to feel so unjustified in what happened? And as you said, you're... the fact that people who are doing all of these horrible things in the government are allowed to get away with it, that people are going to snap at some point and say, we cannot accept this any longer? Yeah, that the biggest danger of violence from the right is going to be in the initial stages of this, when they're waiting to see how they can undo the filibuster. Right? If they undo the filibuster, they can literally change everything. So, we put out a video that was wrong, saying that we held on to the Senate. And as the recount went on, we did not hang on to the Senate. Well, now it's now we've got a runoff in Georgia. We got 2 seats. So if we don't win the Senate seat, then literally Democrats can do whatever they want. They can, get rid of our guns. They can make Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. states. They can pack the court. They can literally do whatever they want and change this country the way they want. And I do not think the conservative states are going to stand for that. So do you think that the potential violence initiated by people on the right would wait to see what the left does with these positions of power? If it's well thought out, it'll wait till then. If it's not well thought out, you're going to have crazies. Every group has crazies that just get angry and want to lash out. Like the second as soon as Trump loses, you're going to have some crazies do some stuff, probably. I hope it's small scale. Or I hope that for some reason we haven't really had anything, and I'm glad about that. We had, there has been nothing from the right. You had anarchists in Michigan who wanted to go after Gretchen, whatever her name is. Yeah. But those weren't right-wing guys, right? So that's where the biggest threat comes there. But the persecution after that, the abuse of red flag laws, the, Joe Biden said he's coming for your AR-15. You're going to see, I've already seen some proposed tax plans where they would tax each weapon you have and make it almost, very expensive for people to hold things.
Going after it financially, yeah.
Yeah. And
it's a smarter way for them to do it because then it's up to people will have to personally say, I can't have this firearm anymore versus it's being taken away.
I just don't think, again, if they do the filibuster, that's the sign that they intend to do whatever they want, and it's going to be the United States at that point will be a socialist government for a very long time after that, until a revolution happens. Now, the other options to this are that they stay moderate. That, either Republicans take the Senate, they can't get anything through, they still put an anti-gun, anti-cop attorney general in charge. They'll still come after us. But then if that happens, and the effect will be lesser because they're not going to be able to jam national laws down our throat that they could.
So I know that, there are the more moderate left side, that those phone calls that we heard right after we can never say the word socialism again, that were, mad that they almost lost their race because of the extreme lefts, and they're like, you guys need to tamp this down.
They won't call it socialism. Like AOC would call it socialism. They'll rebrand it.
But do you think that line of thinking, the recognition that the left of the extreme really is not popular, do you think that can hold on, or do you think it's if the left gets all of the seats of power, that it's going to have to sway all the way to the extreme?
I think that their abortion policy, their gun policies, and their other domestic policies like that are going to go extreme.
The ball is just rolling on those. There's not.
I just don't think that there's enough Democrats that believe in the Second Amendment. Some of the idiots think that it's about hunting.
Right.
It's got nothing to do with hunting.
Yeah.
Including Joe Biden, who's like, talking about shooting people in the leg with a shotgun and just absolute insanity. So I think that the filibuster is the line in the sand that we all have to be waiting on. I think that unless Trump wins and is able to hold on, every one of you who like your rights and your freedoms and likes freedom, period, you need to be ready to move to a red state. And not just a barely red state. I wish I could tell you, I can't look you straight in the eye and tell you to take one for the team and move to a battleground state and then have Amazon open up a super mega center there, or Apple open up a super mega center and they import 50,000 jobs and now that state flips. That's what they do, right? Look at what's going on in Georgia.
Yeah.
Big tech has the money to burn as much money as they want. Jeff Bezos can burn as much money as he wants to flip any state.
Just got a notification that Pennsylvania just certified Biden.
So again, pick the deepest, reddest state you can go. I wish Texas wasn't such a hot desert, because that's where I'd be going, because they have in their constitution.
You'd be going to South Dakota.
Yeah, South Dakota's another one, but it's not a probability, and it's still remote, but there's a possibility that we may separate, like the states may separate from the federal government.
What is that's a whole conversation in itself. As far as what is that, how possible is that for states to do? What needs to happen for a state to say, man, no, thank you anymore, we're good?
I know that Texas had wrote it into their constitution, and they can secede. I think
so. If it in the state's creation, if it was written into their constitution that they can. I'm
not a scholar. I can't tell you. It's something we need to dig a little deeper in.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised, and I don't think it would be a bad thing at this point. I don't think that.
So basically, we would become more like Europe.
I think we would become more like Europe.
That's crazy.
Where, New York, the Northeast would be like
It's chalk.
Germany
Yeah.
and, Kansas and all the conservative and, Texas and West Virginia, Oklahoma, North, South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, everything in the center of the country.
And so what that would get you is that those states that secede they wouldn't be impacted anymore by federal
they wouldn't
laws
fall under federal laws
because they would have their own.
I think, and again, I'm just totally.
If anyone knows
making stuff out right now.
is more informed about that potential.
But I think that's getting really. I mean, that's where we're at. Either that, or the only other hope that we have is that free debate comes back to society. We can agree on a referee, and the referee is willing to do that. And I had somebody respectful come on our boards. I don't even know what party they are. I suspect they're on the left, and they were talking about how he I don't know if they're a guy or girl. This person dropped a quote in one of our threads on YouTube that have been very robust, and I thank you guys for that. Saying, dropping a quote in there that the Trump administration has failed to do whatever and sign justice, whatever. And I said, hey, listen, if you want to win over anyone from the right, you're probably not going to want to use the crux of your argument being a quote from an Obama-appointed judge. And their thing was, we have to believe that the courts are
neutral,
the end-all, be-all. And I'm like, I go, how so? You have the 9 brightest minds that settle things so often 5-4. So literally, out of 9 people, the 9 brightest minds on this thing, and they can't agree that how something should go.
Yeah, that's always...
It should be a consensus. It should be, I understand that, let's say the 20% rule, right? And I'm not going to break down say if it was 7-2, I get that, right?
But when it always goes party lines.
It's a super majority, and it always goes party lines. And that's where we are as a country right now. We're 5-4, and we're the 4 side, right? Not if you look at land mass, not if you look at that, but if you look at population-wise, we're the 4.
Yeah.
And I understand why this person who I think, is a leftist says that, because they've had their way in the courts for the past 40 years. Since Roe v. Wade, they've won 5-4 every way.
Yeah.
So they haven't had to eat crow yet, which is coming up. And what do they want to do right away? Pack the court so they can get their way again. Right? So I don't think you can do that. I think that is the flaw, is that we've given up legislation, smart legislation. We've empowered the courts to decide everything, and it goes down to 5-4.
Those people, as soon as, if any of these Trump lawsuits come through, go to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court rules in Trump's favor, they're immediately going to say that was politics, not a neutral judge decision. So, I mean, that argument's going to go right back in their face.
It would be 9-0 every time, or 8-1 every time, if we appointed constitutional judges, meaning that the Constitution says what it says. It doesn't say what it doesn't say.
If they're all Amy Coney Barrett's in there, then you'd get what the Constitution is for.
Understanding the original intention, the way the law was written, that's the way it is. It's not a living document that evolves with the times and doesn't. No, the laws were passed for this. The Second Amendment was written after overthrowing a dictatorship called the British government.
Yeah.
Right? So they wrote that. It was so important for them that they put it as the second thing they literally did, the right to keep and bear arms, to make sure that the people could rise up and overthrow the government if anything should happen. And they didn't limit it. They didn't say you couldn't own a cannon. You could own the best thing at the time, which was a musket and a pistol. Right? You could literally order the best thing. They didn't say you couldn't have this, you couldn't have that. You could own a warship if you wanted to. You could own an aircraft carrier. That's where it was.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there were private ships out there with cannons on them. Right? So again, it's really a scary time. So I know I've been rambling on this subject. It's been on my heart and on my mind for so long. So what do you do when you're in a 5-4 society? You have to split off. And that makes me sad. I mean, I've dedicated my whole life to serving this country. But I get it. It's better than, I don't like the fact that me having my firearm the second I pass over a state line, I'm a felon.
Yeah. Yep.
It's crazy. So maybe we need to be our own countries, and that states are their own whatevers and all that. I know that it opens up a heck of a lot of problems.
Yeah. Can't even wrap your mind around it. But
I mean, what's to stop China from taking over California?
Yeah.
And being that
So
close
now
to us?
that if it was
because of the national defense.
yeah, gosh, what would you even do about military and national? That's crazy.
So again,
That's
I wish I was more
hopefully it doesn't
educated
happen.
on this,
Yeah.
and this is stuff that we have to dig deeper into. So what it is that you need to do, you need to be prepared to move. Look at West Virginia, Kentucky, Texas, Montana, Florida, although that's a battleground state.
Well, and we've been talking because we're right next door to West Virginia, and we have a lot of acquaintances and friends who are strongly considering a move there. But that's kind of gone back and forth, blue, red, as when we've been talking because of unions. They're
the parties
they're the
flopped
blue collar
again.
blues, not true liberals. And so, but do you feel like West Virginia is a safe choice politically?
When I look at them and I see 68% Trump, but I know they're voting for their jobs there, I don't know where they are socially.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, are they God-fearing, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment state?
Yeah.
I don't know them enough.
Mm-hmm.
Based off their vote, yes. Now, the parties have swapped again, right? We were the working man's party, and the Democrats weren't, right? We were the Republican Party freed the slaves, the party of Lincoln. And then somewhere along the lines, the parties swapped, and they took over the unions, and they became the working man's party, and then Republicans became the white-collar party, and were big business. And now, in the age of Trump, it swapped again.
Yeah.
Right? And it swapped again, and now, Trump's number one campaign donations came from people like me and you.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas Wall Street and big tech all funded the Bidens in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So I know that West Virginia better be red because the Democrats are never coming to help them again. They don't need them anymore.
Yeah.
They don't need them anymore. They're the dirty coal, fracking, place. They don't need them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be devastating in that state, unfortunately.
Well, they might be getting an influx of people moving there, which will help.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens to that state if they because in the same way that people are worried that people are leaving California and making other states more liberal, conservatives will be kind of doing the opposite. They'll be going to West Virginias and places like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens to those states, how they benefit from that population coming in.
Yeah. So there's some things that you guys need to do, and you've heard me talk about these before. One is you got to watch what you say on social media if you're in one of these non-free speech platforms. Everything you've ever said and everything you're ever going to do if Biden comes in office, the Justice Department is going to link up with Facebook and Twitter and everyone else and Google, and they're going to be feeding them everything they want to know if you're dangerous to them. The FBI came out and said the biggest threat to America was white supremacists, right? And they took a page out of the left there. What they meant was the biggest threat to them, being the deep state, and them was American patriots and veterans, right? Black, white, purple, doesn't matter. If you know how to defend yourself, if you know how to use a rifle, if you can be a thorn in their side and you're not a sheep and you have the potential to be a dangerous person, which I believe every capable person should be considered, the ability to be considered dangerous.
Yeah.
Right? That's who they're talking about. And in this new world order, as if Biden manages to steal the election, that's what we're looking at, right? Then they'll be targeting everyone who disagreed with them. We saw them do it with the IRS. We'll see them do it with the FBI. We'll see them do it with state police task force and gun task force with red flag laws and all those things. So you need to stop texting in wide open Apple, because Apple's a part of it, right? So there's a couple things you want to do. You want to get to Parler and dump your Twitter. Don't say anything on Twitter that you don't want them to have. Go to Gab or MeWe for the new Facebook. I really am enjoying MeWe. I haven't had time to jump into Gab. I really am enjoying that. Rumble over YouTube. Again, YouTube hasn't censored us all that much that I know of. I know we've been shadow censored, meaning that they don't push us out as much as we should. We can't make things on there. Well, you'll get demonetized. Rumble, you don't have any of that. Get rid of everything Google. I said it. All right. Go to DuckDuckGo or go to Brave, which is another browser that's like Google Chrome, except it doesn't do any of that stuff. Stop giving Google your information. Stop being analyzed by them. They are, if you haven't seen the social dilemma, see it. You really need to start understanding that these are not our friends.
Netflix, right?
Yeah. Make sure you get off of your phone text and get into Signal. I do not like the WhatsApp because it's owned by Facebook now.
Okay.
Right? So Signal for secure messaging. So if you're going to be talking about anything out there that, somebody, whether it's innocent or not, somebody could take it the wrong way, you better say it in Signal. All right. So that's some of the migration and the patterns of our daily life that we must do.
So reserve, if you're going to stay on Facebook and Instagram and all that, just flood them with puppy and baby videos.
Yeah, puppy and baby videos.
And then they'll maybe start to leave you alone because they get so annoyed.
Right. So
that's how I do it.
We're going to continue to speak the truth on all platforms. It's just we know we'll get censored and flagged and warned and deplatformed if we say things as plain English as I tend to speak. Mm-hmm. So I'm expecting that, but we're going to maintain them as long as we can because that's where everyone is. Mm-hmm. I mean, we got 470 followers on MeWe right now compared to what we have on other platforms. It's not really all that much. Now, if we all go there and we all do this, that's great.